Hello and welcome back, everybody, to round 3 of the Eternal Tournament Series Season 3, weekly number 3. We are jumping into game right here with IlyaK on... I know he's called this deck something a little bit different, so I'll use his name, Elysian Finkelpack. And we've got LoveUP over here on a Stonescar mid-range variant, it looks like.
Yeah, it's certainly more controlling than traditional Stonescar builds you might see. No copies of Obliterate, no copies of Flame Blast, much more removal. We have Statue Maiden Steward of the Past in the 4-drop slot instead of Impending Doom, so I would expect him to force the game to go slower.
Yeah, and this is going to be an interesting matchup. IlyaK obviously on what amounts to a variation of Shimmer Pack, so we're going to see Obelisks and Titans and Shimmer Pack, of course. And it'll be interesting to see if LoveUP can get to a good position early, because it can be easy for the Shimmer Pack deck to kind of like take over in the late game if their tokens go unchecked. But we do see the Bar's favor picking off the first threat, and there is Furnace Mage in LoveUp's hand, notably.
Yeah, that will certainly help later. Turning off Xenon Obelisk makes it so all these little ancillary creatures are not must-kill threats, and that allows you to actually just trade spot removal with things like Sandstorm Titan that actually are normally relevant.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, I think we just lost the hand cam for LoveUP, but we are on IlyaK still, and we see that Annihilate that was in LoveUp's hand coming down on IlyaK's Sandstorm Titan, and that's going to force him to just play a Temple Scribe and cycle, and ends up picking up a Sigil. So not a super exciting hand here, but LoveUp's still not putting anything on the board.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate for LoveUp to not have a Steward of the Past or a Statue Maiden. Those are probably the most important cards in the matchup. Those allow LoveUp to not only present potent blockers, but Statue Maiden in particular allows them to accrue cudgels while they're killing stuff, which makes their creatures big enough to actually overcome a Xenon Obelisk.
Yeah, absolutely. And that Furnace Mage will check the Obelisk when IlyaK does eventually play it. And LoveUp now hitting that 5 power, going to be able to get that Umbran Reaper down on the next turn. We do see 2 Permafrost in IlyaK's hand to help out with that situation. And we see 6 damage on board, though the Sandstorm Titan getting immediately cleaned up by another Annihilate.
Yeah, this displays one of the reasons why I do not love Sandstorm Titan and Shimmer Pack. The deck does a very good job of turning off all your opponent's single target removal and adding things like Sandstorm Titan that are just like big idiots that can just die 1-for-1, kind of give your opponent live targets for cards that would otherwise be dead or suboptimal.
Yeah, this is very true, though a lot of people do play it just for the just because it is such a powerful inclusion, like a 4-mana 5/6, obviously 4 power rather. Can be very, very powerful in general, but we see the Furnace Mage coming down and cleaning up the Permafrost. Well, what was the first Permafrost on the Umbran Reaper, so LoveUp got in for 5 that turn, but IlyaK immediately responding with a second Permafrost to go ahead and lock this down.
Yeah, I understand using the Furnace Mage to get rid of the Permafrost. If IlyaK doesn't have a second one, then your Umbran Reaper is going unchecked. But now, LoveUp is very vulnerable to the Xenon Obelisk. It would make all of these O2s and 1/1s very relevant threats. And another Permafrost comes down to deal with the second Umbran Reaper.
Yeah, very true. Oh, it looks like I just lost my stream for a second. Sorry,
I
guys.
still have it up. So what we have going on here is that LoveUp is going to be able to get this game to a point where they can use this Tyrant to kill both Umbran Reapers, dealing 10 damage to IlyaK. So effectively, LoveUp only needs to get IlyaK to 10 or even 13 because of this Torch.
Yeah, he does only need to take him down, but so far, and IlyaK not actually finding anything. And here is going to be a big stack. 2 Umbran Reapers going off now, putting 10 damage down, and the Infernal Tyrant's still on the board. It is fortunate that IlyaK does have the Lumen Defender in place, so he will be able to hold off the ground for the time being.
It does look like a Death Strike is going to come in and take that out. And now LoveUp actually has very profitable attacks. Even if double block comes down between the 1/1 and the 2/3 on the first mage, Torch gets to blow that up too. So IlyaK is in a lot of trouble here. He's going to have nothing, absolutely nothing.
Yeah, he definitely is in a very rough situation now. LoveUp absolutely in control of the board and has that Umbran Reaper in hand now. And we see him also having a Steward of the Past and a Quarry plus a Death Strike.
That's
so yeah, he's
Scouting Party is a really good ripoff for IlyaK. Probably the only way he gets back in the game, but even that might not be enough.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think it's going to do it here. IlyaK is going to need to hit some big pulls off of this, and the Umbran Reaper is still presenting him a very threatening clock in the air. And IlyaK, recognizing that, going to go ahead and go all in here on the swing, see if he can pick up anything in 2 cards.
It has to be what, like a 2-drop and a Shimmer Pack?
He was looking for Obelisk and Shimmer Pack there, I think. Like I think that would have at least helped out, but he also was gonna still need a way to deal with the Umbran Reaper, so
yeah.
Fortunately, just not enough for him there. So IlyaK going down 0-1 against LoveUp. Sorry, I'm reading his actual name. LoveUp, one of our I think we have a few Brazilian players, but definitely one of our few Brazilian players that we do have in the tournament team. So shout out to him and shout out to all our Brazilian viewers tuning in for this.
Yeah, certainly. And it's interesting to see that game 1 play out that way. I would have given the nod to IlyaK, given just looking at the deck lists. LoveUp had a lot of spot removal and cards that don't trade particularly well with most of the cards in IlyaK's deck. We saw IlyaK never find an Obelisk making the Taliyah's favor and Inscribes relevant at any point, and they ended up just chump blocking going down the stretch.
Yeah, and we see sideboarding right now. LoveUp having 4 copies of Ruin, 3 Sabotages, 4 Treacheries, 3 Plagues, and an Zendil's Gift. So I have to imagine some combination of Ruins and Sabotages coming to this board.
Yes, certainly. Those are very good options. And on the side of IlyaK,
what do we have on the side of IlyaK? We've got 3 Decays, 2 Polymorphs, 2 Crystallizes, 2 Rain of Frogs, a Shimmer Pack, 2 Backlashes, a Scorpion Wasp, a Marissan's Disciple, and a Passage of Eons. So definitely can assume that the Passage of Eons will be coming in. Quite possibly the Polymorphs as well to take care of some of the more threatening units that LoveUp is going to play, such as those Umbran Reapers, since those kind of are the be-all, end-all of this matchup sometimes.
Yeah, I would also like the Marissan's Disciples and possibly even the Shimmer Pack. Marissan's Disciple is a card that doesn't trade 1-for-1 with any of LoveUp's spot removal, and Shimmer Pack is another payoff that allows all of IlyaK's small little creatures to actually become relevant threats going into the late game.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we'll see. I think that's going to be most of the sideboard cards that are going to be coming in. I can't imagine too much else for either of these players. The 2 Polymorphs there. Also, okay, so some Backlash is coming in. That's also fairly reasonable, trying to counteract some of the burn. Though I'm not sure how much is really hanging out in LoveUp's deck. Let's take a look at that.
I think there's 0, right?
Yeah, LoveUp on the more traditional mid-range plan, so no burn in here. It does have some Cabal Countesses and some Umbran Reapers, so lots of Infernal Tyrants too. 3 Infernal Tyrants in the main board, which we have started to see quite a resurgence of Infernal Tyrant actually being played in the main deck of Sonescar.
Yeah, it's a very potent card, both in the mirror and against Armory. Is just a very large creature that's out of the range of most weapons, unless they're pumped very large. So the Titan has definitely been a very good card in the current metagame. We'll jump right here into game 2.
Yeah, and we are here into game 2. IlyaK with a pretty solid starting hand has the Taliyah's favor to go ahead and fetch an extra power. Got a Polymorph for some removal, Lumen Defender to turtle up, and a Scouting Party for the late game. On the other hand, LoveUp also with a fairly solid hand, going to have this Argent Port Instigator coming down on 2, Quarry to find some threats, and an Umbran Reaper, and a little bit of removal.
Yeah, IlyaK is just going to spend the first few turns spinning his tires, just fetching a land with his Talir's favor. LoveUp is going to be able to put on some pressure with this Argent port, and we might see IlyaK use a polymorph on it, but that's not really the target you want to use that card for, so they might just pass, possibly Scorpion Wasp it, or even just let it hit.
Yeah, we might see Scorpion Wasp come down, but yeah, there is also a decent likelihood that IlyaK will just let this go through. I think now he's inclined to block it with the Scorpion Wasp.
Yeah, that's too much pressure. I think you just have to slow that down a bit.
Yeah, definitely. Don't want your tokens to be getting chewed up for 2 damage to you each turn, so slows down the damage clock. And LoveUp is going to be missing a sigil currently. We're going to see if he hits one off the top of his deck so that he can actually go into his 4 drops cleanly.
Yeah, it's interesting to see IlyaK had the choice there between playing a Temple Scribe or just making a tempo play of playing the Displacer to bounce back the Argent port, give himself initiative, and we saw them go for the Displacer. I do like that. It takes a lot of the pressure off. LoveUp now has to spend time redeploying that Argent port, and it gives IlyaK time to build up to their powerful again.
Yeah, absolutely. Normally, I do like that play a little bit more than I did there, though. I am a huge fan of tempoing with Praxis Displacer to essentially force your opponent to redo their turn. But we do see the reduced cost on the Argent Port Instigator, making it just a 1-cost 3/3. So not a huge tempo loss there, but it was important for IlyaK to get another unit down on the board that had a good body.
Yeah, LoveUp being able to do something plus the Argent port, like them casting that Quarry and playing it, was very good for them. Usually want them to only do 1 spell turn off the bounce. We do see the Obelisk come down, making some of these relevant, and IlyaK actually electing to trade 4 damage for 3. That is pretty reasonable when you know the lists, knowing that LoveUp does not have burn. You actually are probably still the beatdown in this matchup. It is going to depend upon how the game plays out most of the time, though.
Yeah, I think what we're going to see here is it's going to depend on if LoveUp can actually deploy these threats and start holding this board down, or if IlyaK can just overwhelm him with the swarm of units, and he still has the polymorph to take care of the first really scary threat, and the predatory Carnosaur also we see picked up for IlyaK gives him another way to slam down a big body and use it as removal.
And we see the tables have turned here to some degree, where IlyaK is now a little bit choked on mana, and LoveUp has hit their past 2 power drops. So now LoveUp can cast everything in their hand, and IlyaK is actually stuck with this scouting party, this Carnosaur in their hand that they cannot cast currently.
Yes, this is very true. IlyaK his life total is dropping a little bit, dripping, not quite what I was thinking, but we do see 2 Lumen Defenders in hand, which will give him 10 health here on the way back. So he's actually not under a ton of pressure, and in fact, LoveUp under enough pressure that he has to hold all of his attackers back for this turn, and IlyaK is going to get a free turn here to decide what he wants to commit his power to.
Yeah, this is a very interesting turn for IlyaK. I do like Carnosaur. You generally want to play Carnosaur when removal isn't up because you want the fight to go through. LoveUp only on 1 mana right now. The only thing it could have is Torch, and the Torch isn't big enough to even make the Carnosaur trade because of the Xenon Obelisk.
Yes, very true. Not big enough to make a trade, and we do see LoveUp go ahead and firing off a Torch to make sure that that extra 1 damage goes through to IlyaK and make sure he gets a Cudgel.
Yeah, so it looks like LoveUp is just going to have to try and stabilize the game here. IlyaK isn't having a huge amount of pressure. It's really just this Carnosaur, and LoveUp does have a Death Strike to deal with it, or even just hanging back on the Statuary Maiden and playing another Steward Pass. LoveUp has a lot of options this turn. I'll be interested to see how they play this out.
Yeah, and it looks like he's just going to play defensively and hold up the Death Strike, which is absolutely fine. I think I would have liked to see a Statuary Maiden or a Steward Pass come down that turn, but this is fine. He's going to Death Strike down the 7/7 to kind of remove this pressure from him.
Yeah, playing one of the other Death Touch creatures would have made you much more amenable to trading one of them for the Carnosaur. Losing your only Statuary Maiden in play is a little bit more of a cost, but now that if you had another one in play, you still retained that effect, it would be fine. And then we see the Treachery coming down, choice between Lumen Defender and Sandstorm Titan. I think you go the Lumen Defender just because of the life gain. Sandstorm Titan just dies. Both of those just died, so you might as well take the one that has an enter battlefield trigger.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was definitely the right choice there out of LoveUP. Take the Lumen Defender. You know that IlyaK, every time he can play a Lumen Defender and gain that 5 health back, it's just putting him so much farther out of reach. And IlyaK can mount a clock against LoveUP very quickly, since LoveUp is down to 8, and we're going to see him now get pushed down to 7 here with the Argenport Instigator in play.
There's a bit of an aggressive attack with the Lumen Defender trading for the Statuary Maiden. I guess it's not doing much else, so it's fine, but it's really interesting that IlyaK hasn't elected to play the Scouting Party yet. It's only getting worse. As LoveUp is able to just build a board wider and wider, the Scouting Party is just not going to be able to get through at any point.
Yeah, now that he's got it down, he will provide a number of threats here, and he's threatening lethal, actually, as of next turn. I would not swing with the 6/7 here. I think I would probably just go ahead and hold that one back. I don't think it's very necessary. But it looks like he's going to choose to do that. So a Statuary Maiden, or we'll see a double block here. I actually kind of would have liked to see the double block with the 4/4 and the 5/5.
Yeah, I think that you would prefer one of those dead over the Statuary Maiden. Although they do have still the Steward of the Past. They've gotten enough cudgels. Although maybe there's no such thing as enough cudgels.
Yeah, I think you'd rather see more cudgels, and not only that, it's just I think that the Argenport Instigator is almost some sort of liability to you at this point. It definitely can be, but I think, yeah, we are just going to see the game closed out right here. No. My apologies. He will be set to 1. We'll see if IlyaK elects to polymorph something, or if he's just going to hold that for an Umber Reaper. And, interesting, deciding not to attack either.
Yeah, it's weird because the polymorph doesn't do a lot there because the cudgels still stay on the frog that is created. So the frog would, regardless of what gets polymorphed, the frog could still threaten to eat an attacker. So the polymorph is kind of a dead card right here. It doesn't really affect the board in a meaningful way.
It can take care of this Argenport Instigator. That was the one good target on the board for
he doesn't have a cudgel, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Since he only had the +1/+1 from being dark returned. So we see the block being made here by LoveUP, and LoveUP does have the Annihilate, so he will be able to survive this attack, albeit just barely. Oh, and actually goes ahead and throws the concession down. I think he would have been able to survive, maybe.
Yeah, right.
He had 7 threats on board, 3 blockers, and he had the. I guess what it was is actually he was dead to. Well, no, the Argenport Instigator was removed, so there was no damage. Yeah, interesting concession there out of LoveUP. He actually was still alive there, but chooses to take a concession, which might be a big mistake. He would have had at least 12 damage left on board. Probably would have been hard for him to get back into the game, but you never know. Might have picked up an Infernal Tyrant and been able to heal himself back out of range. So.
Yeah, they certainly had a few outs there because the 3 damage gets through, right? The Talir's Favorite and the 2/2, and then 3 of the creatures die, 2 to blocks, 1 to the Annihilate. I think they didn't even have lethal on the follow-up turn.
Yeah, I think if you had removed it that way, if you had put up, if you dropped. Well, no. He would have actually had lethal on the next turn because he would have only had 2 blockers since the frog was removed, and he still had 3 attackers, and he would be set to 1. So it was still a difficult situation to escape, but certainly not impossible. So a slight misstep there from LoveUP to not go ahead and try and take advantage of all the outs he could have utilized there to win that game, but. Deciding he doesn't need it, he's going to go on to game 3. See if we can get a decider here.
LoveUP has a pretty decent hand. They have an early Treachery. They can help up rip something apart. Suffocate and Annihilate, which aren't particularly good early. Most of the creatures get another card in some way. The spot removal in general is underwhelming, but we'll see how the game develops.
Yeah, we will. And LoveUP does have the option to fire off this Treachery right here and take out one of the 2 Marissan's Disciples, which leaves IlyaK's hand looking not the greatest, but he does have answers. He has a permafrost and a backlash to try and handle some of this early aggression. The backlash will be useful probably on something like Dark Return, which will essentially count as removing another threat.
Yeah, and I was going to say, IlyaK is like, his slow hand is fine because he's not going to be under a bunch of pressure. And then LoveUp went and ripped the Argent Instigator, providing a pretty reasonable clock. We see IlyaK of not deciding to permafrost it, just saying, okay, this is fine. I'll play the Smearsing Disciple, threat the trade with the 3/3. Although, if LoveUp's going to be able to use this Suffocate, oh no, he just goes for the Xenon Obelisk, actually. So he's okay with taking a bunch of damage here, taking advantage of the fact that LoveUp is not playing Burn, being a little liberal with his life total.
Yeah, definitely being a little liberal with his life total, and IlyaK picking up the Sandstorm Titan off the top, going to go ahead and put the Murrison's Disciple down here, which will provide some very solid bodies. LoveUp can just go Suffocate, Annihilate, and push through here. He will get punished slightly for this with the Titan coming down next turn. But
yeah, and this is why Myrci's Disciple is such a powerful card in this matchup, because it just traded for 2 cards in the, just making all this spot removal like very underwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely. Furnace Mage still in LoveUp's hand, going to be able to probably catch. IlyaK playing a little bit interestingly here, deciding that if he puts the Amber Acolyte down, it will be fine. So I would actually have liked, plays. I guess we'll see Suffocate, which is fine as well. But I feel like you can hold Suffocate for the moment. I would have actually liked to have seen Furnace Mage come down here to take out the Obelisk and essentially set IlyaK back a full turn.
Especially because destroying the Xenon Obelisk makes it so the Argent Port can attack through the Amber Acolyte.
Exactly. That was what I was thinking as well, is being able to just push through that Amber Acolyte with no problem, I think would have been the correct play in this situation. Also an interesting choice to take the Champion of Chaos over the Umbran Reaper. I generally like Umbran Reaper a lot more in this matchup, even if it is possible for your opponent to permafrost to the board. You are holding Infernal Tyrant, so you know it will die eventually.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting. Umbran Reaper is obviously worse against Sandstorm Titan, which LoveUp knows from the deck, or LoveUp knows from the deck list that IlyaK is playing 4 of. So maybe that was the tiebreaker. Champion of Chaos rumbles a little bit better against Sandstorm Titan. They'll at least trade. So that might have been what they were thinking.
Yeah, quite possibly. I feel like I would have been comfortable in that situation playing the Umbran Reaper regardless. Just even if it trades into or doesn't trade into the Sandstorm Titan, just to essentially put another 5 damage on IlyaK, because it just puts you so much closer. One more Umbran Reaper and you're home free. We see Permafrost coming down here on the Champion of Chaos, and we're going to see IlyaK push in with the Sandstorm Titan, certainly taking an aggressive line now that he can.
It was interesting to see the Rain of Frogs on the part of IlyaK take the Infernal Tyrant instead of the Furnace Mage, because now the Furnace Mage gets to come down here and take off either Permafrost or the Obelisk, and we do see him elect for the Permafrost. I think that the Infernal Tyrant is certainly a large creature, but both of those enchantments were very important for IlyaK. It's a hard decision.
Yeah, certainly. I think that was I think it was a smart play by LoveUp to actually hold on to the Furnace Mage, even though I would have liked to have seen it played earlier. Holding on to it until this point actually enabled him to break a very important permafrost and start pushing back. And IlyaK going to be probably stabilizing here in just a second. Like, we're going to have to see a trade come out here, unfortunately. And this will pressure IlyaK down to 7, which is opening lethal in certain ways. But if he can pick up any type of unit, such as his Praxis Displacer, and he's going to drop the second Xenon Obelisk, and they're both going to have 4/4 increases. So they're going to be 7/6s.
Yeah, now every creature, regardless of how it's significant, is going to be a big problem for LoveUp to deal with. And even these Praxis Placers are both now presenting lethal. It's likely LoveUp is just going to have to chump block with his Argent Ports and his Frog. Although the statue made off the top from the quarry does at least trade, although they don't have enough mana left to play this Argent Port, so we're going to probably see a chump block from the Frog and a block from Statue Maiden if IlyaK even elects to attack, which they very well might not.
I think, yeah, IlyaK going in here, but I think this might honestly be a mistake in the grand scheme of things. Because we do see this Argent Port Instigator hanging out, and this is going to put extra damage and give him the cudgel. Like, he can push IlyaK to 1, and he can chump block with the second Instigator next turn, and yeah, this is, I think that attack might have been an error, but I'm not sure. He was pressured into a situation where he didn't really have a good option.
Yeah. See, now IlyaK is in the spot where if he doesn't draw a creature, he's just dead. And he did draw a Shimmer Pack, so that at least gives him blocks.
Yeah, that will allow him to hold down the board, and we're going to see IlyaK go for a wise swing here. Going to force him to take LoveUP, take a little bit of damage, and now LoveUp is the one on the other side of the board. So IlyaK hitting the unit there, he hit the exact same situation he needed to be in, and now we're going to see him probably transform this Argenport Instigator. I would hope he would transform the Praxis Displacer here.
Yeah, because Praxis Displacer is base 3/2. You get essentially give it +1/+2 by turning it into a Shimmer Pack.
Yeah, exactly. So now we see Argenport Instigator as the Argenport Instigator.
Varus favor lethal.
Yeah, but we do see LoveUp picking up Varus favor and actually is going to kind of steal that game away there. Would have needed another unit, and even then might have been in too scary of a situation to actually pull it out there. But yeah, we see IlyaK going down right at the end to just that really timely Varus favor off the top of his deck.
There we're talking about how there was no reach in LoveUp's deck, and then the Varus favor. How could we forget?
Yeah, of course. Not much reach in the deck in the way of Flame Blast and Torches, but Varus favor, if you need that one damage, and you know, sometimes that's all you need. LoveUp clearly proving that all he needed there was that one damage to go ahead and finish the game out, and it was very close. Very close.
Yeah, the ending race situation, there was a lot of compelling decisions on both sides towards the end there. I don't know if IlyaK's like a double attack into the Statuary Maiden and the Frog was like objectively incorrect. It does force LoveUp to have some things, and IlyaK does have to, but it does kind of force IlyaK to draw a creature. It's really interesting.
It's an interesting decision. Like, you're guaranteed by making the attack that IlyaK did, you're essentially guaranteeing on the following turn that you have to have another unit to play down, because IlyaK had perfect information on the two cards that would be in his opponent's hand. He knew he would have the Argenport Instigator since he bounced it, and he knew he would have a Cudgel. So he knew that there were going to be those two cards in hand. So you knew your opponent was going to have the ability to put you at 1 and the ability to follow up with a unit, which meant that on the following turn, you would have to have a unit yourself to be able to block one of the two units that LoveUp would be swinging through. So it put him in an interesting situation where he essentially is relying on what in his deck probably amounts to about like a 40% chance to draw a unit to not lose the game there automatically. But it does give him an out to win the game, and that's what's important to note.
Yeah, because if he does hit that creature, he gets to attack with the Praxis Displacer, forcing a chump block on the other Argenport. And then if LoveUp does not draw a removal spell for the Shimmer Pack or whatever creature ended up being drawn on defense, then IlyaK has very profitable attacks in the following turn after that, probably lethal.
Yeah, it is a very difficult decision, and I would probably need to sit down and like really play it out to see what the optimal play is. But I actually think IlyaK did in fact make the correct decision there, because he was playing to his out, and that's an important part of being a player and piloting these decks is understanding what outs you're playing to. You have to understand how you win the game from positions that don't look like you have any hope of getting out. And that's what IlyaK did. He took a line that gave him a chance to win the game, and he very nearly got it. Were it not for that Varus favor top deck, it's very possible that IlyaK actually did end up taking that game there.
Yeah, certainly.
But unfortunate as it is with the top deck Varus favorite, LoveUp is going to be very happy to have gotten away with that one there. So he will be taking that series 2-1 on the Stone Scar mid-range deck.